Today we have with us
Yitzchok
Pinkesz, who wrote this book, Kosher Astrology. It's one of its kind. It's never been written before. An astrologer with a Jewish perspective and all the sources of why astrology is so important, beneficial in the Jewish world. I'm just so looking forward to asking you all my questions. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Amazing. So what got you into astrology? Like how are you here?
So, Hashem has incredible plans, for our lives. And so one day, 15 years ago, I just encountered astrology on a lark. We were in the car with some friends, and my friend had mentioned to me that he knew a frum woman who does astrology. So I said, hey, let's call her up. Let's see what she has to say.
It's amazing that you were even open-minded to do that.
I'm a Gemini. I'm curious,
Right.
It's like always, I'm open to exploring life. I really want to understand the world that Hashem created. There's so many different amazing things. So I was like, hey, if you don't explore, you never know. But I didn't give it any value. I didn't believe in it or anything like that. And then, she asked us for our birth date, and I gave her my birth date. And she started telling me that wow, you have a lot of the element of ear. Are you a Talmud Chacham? Are you a writer? Are you a professor? And so I was like, wow, okay, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a professor, but I do like to write, I do like to study. And my friend, she described as somebody who's more grounded, more earth, more materialistic, more down to earth. And he's a school principal, so it fit him well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, if she had switched it, it wouldn't have fit us at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, okay, so there's something here to astrology.
You were intrigued.
Yes, that opened the door for me. That just random encounter, except there's no such thing as a random encounter.
Right.
It was a special thing. And that led to a journey of 15 years of really producing this book.
So what happened after that encounter? You went home and what? You went on Google? Like, what did you do?
First thing that I did, I ordered books. I love to read books. I have a huge book collection at home. And so I ordered books on astrology. And because at the time I didn't know, in my chart, I have Pluto connected to my Mercury's communication and thinking. And Pluto intensifies everything. So I ended up buying over 400 books on astrology.
Right. Doesn't sound so crazy to me.
Right. So that really, and that just blew me away, because then I discovered that there's such a thing as a birth chart, and it's much more complex. And there was information there. I was looking at my own birth chart, and it was telling me so much information about myself. I was just really, really blown away, because this wasn't somebody tricking me, scoping me out, figuring out who I am. This is myself looking at the chart myself. I was like, wow. And I wait, is this true? And I tried it on my friends and family, and it fit everybody. And I was like, what's going on here?
Right.
I was just blown away by that.
Right. It's so cool. I also did something similar when I first encountered astrology when I was like 18. I made a list of all my friends and I wanted to see if it fit, and it all fit. So it was just like, okay, there's something here. So I want to know, based on all the information that you just said, did you feel like astrology changed your life personally? Or it was just like an awareness?
So no question about it. It changed my life. It gave me such a deeper understanding of who I am, what my purpose here, what my gifts are, even my struggles. It's helped so validating to understand there's nothing wrong with me. I was designed with these struggles because I needed to overcome them, because that is my gift and strength. Such a powerful tool that Hashem has given us with astrology. So powerful.
Yeah. So I guess that brings us into the next topic, would be how do us Jewish people, we're very, we grew up with this concept of we're here to fix, and we're here to do, and we have a tikkun and we have a tafkid. So how can somebody take astrology and utilize it in their day-to-day to help them figure out what their tikkun is and what their tafkid is?
So it's a huge tool. The beauty of it is it has so much information. There's so much information there. Like, when I give over a chart reading for people, I spend an hour with them, but I tell them they have to record it, because there's such an overflow.
No, I was actually just listening to mine again, and there was so much that I didn't even realize.
Right, there's so much information, and so it really can help us to understand our tafkid and our purpose, and to take different energies that we have and really combine them, because I'll give you an example. I am primarily two energies, Gemini and Cancer. And they're very different energy. Gemini is communication and thinking and
They're
ideas.
very different. My son is Gemini and Cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of Cancer, and he's Gemini.
Yes. So, but it's a
Yeah.
very different, right? So Gemini is all about ideas and concepts and curiosity and learning and teaching. And Cancer is a nurturing energy, right? It's a sensitive,
Right.
nurturing. So you would think those two energies are very different energies, you know, that they don't fit well together, you know? So, however, Hashem designed it. So look what I'm doing, right? I'm doing chart reading. So I need all the data and information that I use with Gemini, but I also have to be sensitive to people's struggles, to their life, to understanding their process.
And you want to help.
Yes. So I'm able to use both of these very diverse energies together as my tafkid and purpose. But when I was younger, there may have been a struggle between these two sides. Like the one side, when one side wants to be fulfilled, it feels like it has to ignore the other side.
Right.
And so everybody has these different energies in their chart. And the key is to use them together to serve the purpose. They're all there for a purpose. You can't ignore or suppress any side of us. That's one of the biggest things that I stress. So important to understand that.
Right. So people think that their astrology means their sun sign.
Right.
So like, what would you say when someone says that?
Right.
Like, but my sun sign is this, and it's not explaining who I am.
I get this all the time, right? So for example, if you said I'm just a Gemini, it's missing the whole Cancer emotional side. You're not just one sun sign. You have 5 zodiac signs, okay? For starters, your sun, your moon, your Mercury, your Venus, Mars, each planet represents a different part of you. Your communication and thinking.
Would you be able to just explain quickly what each planet,
Sure.
the main ones are?
Sure. So like the sun is very important. The sun is the overall identity, your core self-identity. Who are you? So for example, if there's a warrior or a knight, that's his identity. So the sun is the entire person. Then you have the moon represents your emotions, your heart, your feelings, your desires, what you want. So for example, in this example of the warrior, if he's a brave warrior, that's going to serve the sun. So it's a part of you that's serving the overall identity. So the emotions is crucial. The moon is just as important as the sun. You have to know your moon sign just as important as, if not more important than your sun.
Wow.
Because we're primarily our moon. You know, an identity is something that we grow into. A 2-month-old child doesn't have a sense of identity. Right. It's feed me, hold me, burp me, you know, play with me. It's all moon. So when we grow up, we're primarily our moon.
Wow.
So if you don't know your moon sign, you're missing half the picture right there. So if it doesn't fit you so well, check out your moon sign, and then you'll see it makes much more sense. And that's just the moon. Then there's Mercury, is the left brain, is communication and thinking is represented by Mercury. And that can be in a different zodiac sign. Or they can all be in the same zodiac sign, and then you're really strongly that specific one. Mm-hmm. And then you have Mars, is how you take action, your instinct. And that also can be in a different sign. So if you have, let's say, a Pisces Mars is generally more an assertive energy. It fits better with Aries, with a fire sign. It's how you take action. The instinct wants to go, wants to move. If it's in Pisces, it's held back a little bit because it's considering other people's feelings, and it's very sensitive, and actions is not the best thing to be in a sense.
My son, my oldest, we're very similar. I thought we were very similar because he's a Leo and I'm a Leo. So I'm like, okay, I could just tell him, rah, rah, go, and you'll go. But then when I checked out his chart, his Mars is in Cancer. So I was like, okay, well, Yaeli, you got to step back a little. You have to be much more sensitive with him. He's not all Leo like you. Like, there's a whole different part of him. And he gets very upset when I rush him. And I'm like, I cannot rush this one. Like,
absolutely. Watching what a person's Mars is in, it's huge. That's why each piece is so important. A Cancer Mars is a very sensitive, like they don't want to take action because they might hurt somebody. Like that.
Also, he gets very like he second guesses himself. You have to push him. You have to encourage him. A lot of encouragement. And there's so much insight that I know just from the chart itself that I'm able to help him so much as a mother. You know, so like people are like, why do I need to know astrology? But for the people in your life, there's so much that you can benefit. They can benefit from you knowing.
Absolutely. And even the 5 zodiac signs of the 5 planets, that's also just another layer. Then there's more layers on top of that. There's a lot of information, complex information that helps us really understand our personality and the different aspects for our children, for ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you explained the different sun, moon, but can you explain what the planets are, the main planets, and what their energies are that they offer?
So there's the 5 what I would call personal planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. So I think the only one I mentioned was Venus, which is huge. Venus is our creative and intuitive side. So all of this art, that's coming from your Venus. Like that's the creative, intuitive
I thought
side.
Venus is how we love.
So yes, the thing with Venus, it's complex. There's left brain and right brain. Mercury is logical and linear. It's math, 1 plus 1 equals 2. This makes sense. This is science, logic. The right brain is, it's the difference between chachma, wisdom, and bina, right? So a woman has bina, so that's the right brain. So it's way broader and it encompasses all kinds of things. Encompasses our creativity, our intuition,
So it
our
sounds like a very
values.
feminine planet.
It is. It
Okay.
is. Our values, and also how we value ourselves, what we value in life, what's important, and how we value ourselves. And that's going to be a big key to the chart, because if you're not valuing yourself, your relationships are going to suffer. That's why it's connected to relationships, because it's based on how you value yourself. If you're a healthy person,
How you love yourself.
yes, the higher you love yourself, the more healthier boundaries you have, the more healthier relationships you have. So it's going to play a big role in your relationship. So relationships, creativity, so it's very broad. And it's a really important piece of the puzzle. And there's a lot of information connected to that.
So that's Venus and Jupiter.
So those are the 5 personal planets that make up the 5 parts of the human being.
Sun, Moon,
Mercury, Venus,
and Mars.
Right. So that's literally the parts of us. The outer planets, all the other planets we're about to talk about, those flavor. They're not part of us, but they flavor the different energies. So if you have Jupiter is about enthusiasm and excitement, the can-do attitude, the cup is half full. If you fall down, you bounce back. Now, so if your Jupiter is connected to your moon, then you have an enthusiastic moon. Your emotions are enthusiastic. It's flavoring your moon. If it's connected to your Mercury, then your communication is going to be like that. So those planets flavor the different pieces.
So it highlights it.
Yes. So that's another layer. So you have the zodiac signs, then you have each planet, and then you have the planets connecting with your planets. So that's the next level. You have Jupiter. Wow. Saturn is the opposite. Saturn is an authority figure. It's down to earth. It's practical. It's work hard, play later. It's be conservative. That's Saturn. So you see all of these different personality parts coming out depending if a person has Jupiter, a person has Saturn.
Right. And then, more and more. And then there's a balance. You hope there's some sort of balance.
Right. But you'll see some people tend to be strongly one way or another because they have a Jupiter or a Saturn.
Right.
Then there's Uranus in the chart. The Uranus is a whole nother animal. Uranus is about being authentic and true to yourself. That means I got to do my thing regardless how it's going to affect other people. So most people, we have our opinions about things. We might keep it quiet. It might hurt our shidduchim if we speak up, if people knew what we really believed, or people will criticize us, or it's not politically correct. Somebody who has Uranus does not care.
So funny. Can I just tell you?
Yes.
A follower messaged me and she's like, Yaeli, I just want to tell you, I love everything you're saying. She's like, in the nicest way possible. She wasn't trying to criticize, but she's like, you're not afraid of shidduchim? And I was like, honestly, first of all, this is the first time I ever thought about it. Second of all, this is the problem with our world. Everyone's so afraid of shidduchim, I was like, it never crossed my mind. I'm going to say what I would need to say.
It's for sure. And it's such a big mistake because we live in a conformist society and people think, oh, if I stick out, if you're true to who Hashem created you to be, nothing is going to stop you. You will have your shidduchim. You'll have everything that you need. Be true to who Hashem created you to be.
Exactly.
So Uranus is that energy.
Heavy.
Yes. So Uranus really helps that, so in my book, I talk about President Trump. Love him or hate him. He has triple Uranus in his chart and he just speaks his truth. He doesn't care how it's going to affect anybody and he does his thing. So half the country loves him, half the country hates him,
right.
But he's offended. When he's saying what he thinks. He actually thinks,
Right.
That's Uranus. So,
wow.
And when it's very strong in a person's chart, everybody's going to notice this about this person. You'll see it. You can see astrology very powerfully. Yeah, especially if it's very strong, concentrated in a person's chart.
Yes. Okay, and then there was Neptune.
Neptune. Oh, I love Neptune. Neptune is elevation, transcendence. Think of it like a window into a higher world. You're no longer down. Saturn is down to earth, practical. How are you doing this? If you want to talk about it from a Torah perspective, Saturn would be like Shulchan Aruch. This is the law. You got to do this. This is exactly detail. Neptune is about connecting to God. It's spirituality. It's creativity. It's Kabbalah. It's all this mysticism. It's oneness with Hashem, with the world. Such a beautiful, beautiful energy. It's where we become inspired. It's our creativity. So that's amazing. And when I see that in a chart, I go crazy.
Why?
Especially if it's connecting with Venus. So for example, in your chart, you have Neptune very strongly connecting with Venus. So that's where all of this art and the ability and spirituality, inspiration, it's such an incredible talent.
So it's basically when these planets merge or meet up,
Yes.
it creates like a...
Yes,
like
the energy, the Neptune energy is flowing into Venus. So that's inspiring. So it's not just a regular Venus, it's a Neptune Venus.
So that's what makes the direction of your life.
Yes.
And if Saturn could connect with your Uranus, then you'll have a completely different recipe.
Yes, depending
so
on
we
which
all
planet.
have our own cooked up recipe.
Yes.
So we're not just, there's not 12 personalities.
No, there's so many. That's why Hashem made for each person exactly their individual design, who they're meant to be, and a very individual. And that's why it's so important to bring out that gift. Hashem gave it to you for a reason, So, and the problem is we live in a world that, society tells us, no, you need to do this. No, this is nonsense. Art is ridiculous. All these negative stuff, and we're not doing our gifts.
Right.
What are we doing?
So that was my next question. Like if someone says, you did their birth chart, their sun sign doesn't add up, their moon sign, nothing's really like clicking. So what would you say to them? Is astrology wrong, or are they not doing what they're supposed to be doing?
There's no such thing. Meaning there's a piece missing. So if they're not connecting with their sun sign or the moon sign, so that's the second layer. Is Saturn connecting to their moon? Is Saturn restricting their emotions? Is there something happening there? They might have Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. So that planet might be wounded and they may have suppressed it. They may have gotten a message in childhood. No, this is bad. Don't do this. And then these ideas get planted in our heads and we do this to ourselves as we go through life. So you can see that in the chart. I can go and say, hey, what are you doing with this? This is what you feel? Many times when I talk about Saturn, especially when it's connected to the moon or to Venus, it's somebody who didn't feel emotionally supported growing up. And when I go through this with them so many times, people literally start crying. It's the first time they're being validated that there's not something wrong with them. This is their real experience. Somebody's, speaking out loud their experience, what they went through, and to understand also what their purpose is from that. Because when that happens, right, when you go through this difficulty, Hashem is trying to help you, teach you that you need to learn how to become emotionally self-supporting, because there's something in your life where you're going to need that emotional self-support, because it's going to be something tough that you need to go through and withstand, and you need to be able to be strong within yourself. So that's why you have to go through that difficulty in childhood, and it's going to help you achieve your purpose and mission. Mm-hmm. Everything is purposeful, even the difficult stuff, even the painful stuff.
Right. So like Hashem plants it on purpose so that you can learn how to get over it.
Yes.
And that will kind of like, set your chart into motion.
Yes. It's going to give you that strength that you need for a certain point in your life to really take it to the next level. And that becomes your superpower. Every struggle that you had in life eventually can become your superpower.
I always say that. I'm so happy that you're saying this. On the other side of your struggle is you can be the perfect person for that.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you get this question a lot, but it's a question that comes up often by me also. How do we understand the concept of destiny when it comes to the chart? Is everything predestined, or do we have free choice?
So that's a phenomenal question. It's a huge question, right? And I love that astrology, to me, seems like has such a powerful answer to that question. So we're given a certain chart, a birth chart, right? So we have certain abilities and gifts and struggles, right? So that's kind of line. So that I would call fated. When we're born, we're going to have...
we have a stamp. The soul gets stamped.
Who we are, what we're here to do, our tafkid, our purpose, that's stamped. So that's like fated. The free will, the bechira comes in. How are we going to develop that? Are we going to reject parts of ourselves? Are we going to do the healing process that's needed? That's where, whether we're going to refine ourselves to the point that we can really elevate ourselves and really become our highest self, that's up to each individual. That's where free will is involved. Mm-hmm. But the trajectory of who we are, we're a tree. We're a certain tree that's going to produce certain apples. That's not within our choice. That's already cooked into who we are. But are we going to do the work? Are we going to water the tree? Are we going to allow it sunlight? Are we going to do the work to create?
Meaning the apples are going to grow anyway. It's just a matter of the quality of the apples?
Right. Or even to produce, like if sometimes we get really stuck in life and you see people get really going through such hard times and their life is blocked and they feel stuck. And so they're not even going to produce apples. It can get to that level. So it really depends and it's all about because they're not allowing something a tree wants to grow. But if you block it, all kinds of negative things come from it and all kinds of things are dysfunction. So the key is really the dysfunction is coming because something is being suppressed. You're not allowing something to grow within inside you. You think that you have to be a certain way because that's what you were taught. And you're blocking your natural gifts from Hashem. Nothing good comes from that.
Nothing is going to, right. You're not allowed. So you're saying if someone in the end, if you read someone's birth chart and it's not matching up, it's because they're blocking something on some level. And they're not aligned.
Because I'll check. I'll say, okay, wait, you have Neptune, Venus. That's inspiration and creativity. Are you doing that? Or if you have, Saturn, Mercury, that means that's maybe a difficulty with learning, but then because you have to work harder, you can become a teacher and a lecturer. Are you doing something with that? Like we can study the areas of struggle and see, or at least it's information you can learn now. Oh, wait, so this area of struggle is something I should keep at it because it's something that I can reduce into a gift. So it's all there. You can see it clearly.
Wow.
Yeah.
People really have a big issue on this. How do we understand our sun sign? Because if I'm on a cusp, let's say, if someone's May 21st and their Hebrew birthday is in the next sign or the sign before. So how does it work? What are they? If you're May 21st, are you a Gemini or are you Taurus? But I don't know what the Hebrew one is. Or are you, I don't know.
Right. So okay.
Taurus.
Right. So that, yeah, that's a great question.
What do you go by?
What?
What do you use? Like, how do you go by when you read a chart? What do you?
Right. So that's the confusing part. It doesn't go according to the English date. It goes according to Hebrew.
Let's say for me, I'm August 18, right? I know I'm a Leo. I look at all the descriptions. It's very obvious. She just said there's no way she's not. But my Hebrew birthday is Vav Elul. I don't really, it doesn't resonate with me, the Virgo. I did grow up with a Virgo mother and I have certain Virgo traits, but it doesn't resonate, nothing about it. And we were always so different and we always were head to head. So how does it work?
So you're 100% correct. So there's two different systems. A birth chart goes according to the moment that you were born. I don't care what English date it was. I don't care what Hebrew date it was. It doesn't go according to any system other. The moment you're born, we're taking a snapshot of the heavens, where all the planets were, and that's what you are. So at the moment that you're born, you're a Leo. It doesn't matter what the Hebrew month.
But what are you going based on at that? Meaning, like, how do I find out the moment that I was born?
So, if you're born, let's say, August 18 at 7:45 p.m.
Someone's going to say August 18 is a solar calendar.
It doesn't, again, it's whatever system you use to create a chart. Whatever system you use to create a chart, you put in that moment. Whatever system, so I'm using a computer, so it's using the English date, so I type in the English date.
Meaning the English date is part of a system that makes sense.
But it's not, it doesn't go according to English calendar. It's just marking the moment when you're born, and that's the chart. Now, the Hebrew months do have an energy connected to it, but it's not your personal chart. It's not your personal energy. The overall month has an energy. We just Chodesh Adar, so it's the energy of Pisces. But it doesn't mean that if you were born, depending on when you were born, you have to see what's happening in the sky. But in terms of this month overall has the energy of Pisces.
I most did a reel about Pisces. So a few people who said that they were their Hebrew birthday is Adar, but their English was either in Aquarius or in Aries. And I could tell the ones that were really Pisces, how they were talking. And one person came on and she's like, I am Pisces. I'm Adar something. And the way she was talking, I was like, you are the biggest Aries I ever met. Okay, I'm happy you're in Pisces. You're not, Yeah.
And the other thing, though, is when people are on the cusp, Mercury and Venus, Mercury can never be more than 60 degrees away, and Venus also. So it's very likely, even if you're on the cusp, you may have a planet or two in the following signs. So you have to check that also. So you might have some of both, not because it's the sun. The sun is exactly the minute you're born. It's either in Aries or it's in Pisces. It can't be, in both. So it's either one or the other. But check your other planets. You might have some other planets.
I have Virgo and Mercury.
Okay. So you might have some energy of Virgo, but not because it was on the cusp, but that's because you have a planet in that sign.
Right. Also, this is a question that just confuses me so much, and I want to know if you can have insight on this. What does the word planet retrograde mean? And how do we utilize it? Is this something that you even talk about?
So the thing that's a great question, right? We hear a lot about retrograde. Mercury's in retrograde. Oh no, don't use communication. Oh no, right? So the thing with astrology is there's so much information. There's so many pieces to this puzzle. I feel like it can be complete overload. You can drive yourself crazy with so many things. So I try to limit it to the most important things, and that's what I focus on. But I talk about retrograde. It just means that from Earth, it looks like the planet is going backwards. Just from the angle, because Earth is moving at a certain angle, it's like when two trains are passing each other. If one train is going really quicker, the other train looks like it's going backwards, even though it's not, but it looks like it's going backwards. So when they say a planet is retrograde, from Earth, it looks like the planet is going backwards. That's what it means. And then
So
they
it have
assign
less of energy.
yeah, so they assign different meanings. Oh, if it's going backwards, then it means this. I mean, it's an opportunity to retrace steps, kind of. Like that's the notion. It's going backwards and then it's going to go forward again. So it's going over this particular area, so it can have more of a thing. But if Mercury's retrograde, you don't have to worry about your communication. You don't have to drive yourself crazy and things like that.
So when I got engaged, I was already like, no, I already knew about astrology, and I Googled like, do Pisces and Leo go together? And everyone like gave us like 2 stars. Like it was like, don't do it. It works for a second. Don't do it. And I was really scared. I was nervous. I was like, what's happening? Like, who am I marrying? The lion will eat the fish. It's over. It goes for a day. And it's like, and then after we got married, I did our full charts, and I didn't do that before. And I realized that my moon was water and his moon was fire, and it totally balanced each other out. So you cannot do anything with shidduchim based on just your sun signs.
Absolutely. I can't stress this enough because you're the perfect example for this. People think exactly, you're a Leo and the sun is a Pisces. Wow, Leo is fire, it's out there. And Pisces is sensitive, intuitive. It's fire and water. So you'd think they don't go. And there are people who won't, I'm a Leo, I'm not going to date a Pisces. Pisces, such a mistake to make because your example is perfect, right? So because you have your sun is in Leo, but your moon is in Scorpio, is a water sign. The sun has his sun in Pisces, but his moon is in Sagittarius. So his fiery moon, his emotions, is making a trine to your sun in Leo. So those two fire energies are blending. Your sun, I love also when a sun connects with the moon of another person, it means you're shining your light on his emotions. So he feels understood.
That's so interesting.
He feels connected.
That.
Yes, that's a beautiful one of the signs that I really want to see between couples is the sun and moon connecting. And you have what's called a double whammy because your sun in fire is connecting with his moon in fire, and his sun in water, Pisces, is trining your moon in Scorpio in water. So he's doing the same thing for you. He's shining his light on your emotions.
Yeah.
So that's called a double whammy.
A lot more Piscean
yes,
since I got
yes. So the water energies are connecting the fire, and that's why you have to look at the whole chart. Because if you just looked at the sun signs, it would seem like it's incompatible, and yet this is a beautiful connection between the two. It's 2 parts that you both have that are connecting with each other across the way.
So you suggest people should get their full chart?
Absolutely. Don't make judgments just by your zodiac sign. Absolutely not.
Right. But people can say, can you make shidduchim based on zodiacs? You can say yes if you do the whole chart.
Right. So if you look at the whole chart. Now, I'll never tell somebody these 2 people should get married, these 2 people shouldn't get married. But I can show you where the areas of they have flowing energy, where they feel connected to each other. Like if somebody has Sun Uranus, that they're super excited by, wow, they find the person fascinating. In a room of 100 people, they would notice that person. Or if somebody has Sun Neptune with somebody, they feel so good in their presence. They feel elevated because Neptune is elevation and they're shining that light on you. So you can see the effect that people have on each other but then also you can see, if you have some of your complexes are connecting with some of his complexes, that's where the area of struggle or the area where you're here to grow together.
Yeah, me and Asanal's Mars don't match up. My Mars is Aries and his Mars is Taurus, and half our life we're just like, I'm pushing him. But whatever, that's my
yes,
secret.
That's the growth. And no chart is going to be every chart is going to have flowing energies and challenging energies. And that's where we're here so the flowing energies help us to stick through it, to work through the more challenging energies. Because there's no such thing as a chart without challenging energies.
Right. Well, that's why we're here.
Right.
That's why we're here, to grow.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception about astrology that you wish people would know?
So first of all, what astrology is, that's, starting with the sun sign, because that's people think all of astrology is, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Taurus. That's it. That's what it is. Or they think it predicts something, right? So people who are not even into that, they think, so that's the biggest issue that I have, that people are not even understanding what astrology is. They don't understand the depth of it, how much information there is, and how beneficial it can be. I really believe if people understood that it can tell you not just your birth chart, because everything we've been talking about is our birth chart. It can also tell you different times in your life when you're going through major things, major opportunities for growth, life-changing things can happen. You can see it lined up in your life, that Hashem directs all that energy. Your whole life is lined up for certain times to really grow. That's such powerful information. Who wouldn't want to know that this is the time when I'm going to be incredibly inspired? When I wrote my book, I had Neptune, which is once in 40 years, connecting with the sun in my chart. Neptune in the sky was connected. It's called a transit. And that's an incredible inspirational time. And that's when I wrote the book.
Wow.
So you can see this literally in our lives playing out. So there's so much information. And that's what I really wish people understood fully, what astrology is.
So why do from people think that astrology is such a bad word and that it's avodah zarah?
Right. So that's a phenomenal question. And that's really the book. That's why I wrote the book, Kosher Astrology. There's two big issues. One, we just discussed, people don't understand what astrology is. And then the other concept, it's so confusing in Judaism. Is it allowed? Is it not allowed? There's so many mixed messages. It says, Ein Mazel Yisrael, that the Jews don't have Mazel, will a Mazel above it. Or it says, Tamim Tiyel Hashem Lakecha, we should be wholehearted with Hashem. There's all of these pasukim that seem to say astrology is bad, it's usher, stay away from it.
Right.
Then we have on the other side, what did we just say? Mazel Adar Dagim, right? What did we say? In all the signs for Adar, you'll always see a fish in it. What's happening there?
Right.
What's going on?
Every single month has its...
Yeah, it has it. And what do we do when somebody gets
the ram?
Yes, when somebody gets engaged, what do we say?
Mazel tov.
Right?
What will happen when someone's pregnant? B'shat tova.
Yeah, so all of these things, when we say Kiddush Levana every month, we say Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, Yehei Lanu L'Chal Yisrael. So this is a huge part of Judaism. And what's going on here? There's such mixed messages. Mm-hmm. So the key is, in the first part of the book, I go through to explain there's a kosher version of astrology and a not kosher version of astrology. It's like animals. Ask the question, are animals kosher? It
depends.
Some animals, yes. And some animals are completely treif and they're forbidden. And other animals, I can still eat a steak and chicken, right? So understanding that there's not kosher versions of astrology, and I go through it. They used to worship planets. The Gemara calls it oivdei kachavim. People who worship planets, and they also use sorcery involved.
Meaning they didn't give there wasn't a source above the planet. It was
right.
Just the planet.
They felt the planet Venus is a false god. And if they serve Venus, then Venus is going to do good things for it.
Right. For really, the planets are servants of God.
Yes. The planets are messengers from God. The Ramchal says that Hashem directs the world through astrology. And this is across the board. From the Tanam, Amaram, Ga'onim, Rishonim, Achronim, they all say Hashem directs the world through astrology. And it's mind-blowing how deeply intertwined the Torah is with astrology. People will be shocked.
It goes all.
People are going to be shocked. All the Sfarim, if you learn Akedas Yitzchok or Yitzchok Aharon, yes, it's so deeply involved. It's not for nothing. Pesach is on the full moon. Sukkot is on the full moon. Everything is aligned. The first mitzvah in the Torah is knowing Rosh Chodesh. The
time that we bring in Shabbos is that the time. It means that why do we care so much about the exact minute? It's because stars.
Everything has a time. Absolutely. Even when we sing Shalom Aleichem, people don't know this. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hashares. We're welcoming the Malach. According to the Tikkun Zohar, you're welcoming the Malach of Jupiter, the angel of Jupiter, and the angel of Saturn into your house. So these are the energies. It's deeply taught in our davening. We say in davening, and it says in Tillim, we say it every day, davening, Hashem counts the stars, that he calls them all by name. So the Ramban, Nachmanides says, what does it mean he calls them by name? He assigns the energy of each planet. To Jupiter is the energy of enthusiasm and excitement. To Mars is the energy of war. So the Ramban explains, so when you're saying davening, you're actually talking about Hashem giving astrological energy to the planets. And I have a whole thing, there's multiple times in davening where you're actually praising Hashem's gifts of astrology into the world. People have no concept how deeply intertwined it's with Judaism.
They have no concept.
Yeah.
Right. It is all Judaism. It's all
Absolutely.
Kabbalah.
It's all Hashem. This is how Hashem is directing the world. And it's deeply connected to your life. This is another powerful thing. You can see Hashem's personal involvement in your life. He created the birth chart. He created a lifetime process of when you're meant to grow and when you're meant to really flourish and flow. All these things, He's all planned for you. I talk about Hashem created the sun, which is an amazing thing for 8 billion people. Everybody benefits from the sun. But the chart is personal. He created that for you, not for anybody else. Your chart was created personally for you. And that's such a powerful,
it's powerful
concept.
And comforting.
Yes.
I find that very comforting.
Yes.
That I don't know, there's just so much more, I feel so much more power within that. It's not just directed, throwing up to Hashem somewhere. It's I have all the tools here.
Absolutely. You can see it. To me is so direct messages. I call your chart a love letter from Hashem written in the sky.
Well, let's say some people say that their chart isn't a love letter. What would you say to that? If someone says, I have bad mazel, my chart doesn't have nice things in there.
There's no such thing.
Okay.
That's what I would say. There's no such thing. You're not fully utilizing it. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have struggles. There may be those struggles, but as you work through them, they're going to turn into powerful gifts. I can show you how they can turn into powerful gifts. There's no such thing that Hashem loves us. Hashem doesn't create people to have
you don't have to show me so much. I have Pluto and I have a lot of that heavy Pluto, whatever it's called.
So Pluto,
transformational energy.
Yeah, so Pluto can be very
intense, my life.
Death and rebirth, and you go through all kinds of processes. You can have a dark night of the soul. Those are not easy. That's one thing. I'm not saying that life is meant to be easy. Those processes can be very difficult and sometimes painful, but it's purposeful. It's here to help you grow and turn you into who you're meant to be.
Right.
So there's no such thing as bad mazel. That means
there's no such thing as bad mazel.
You're in process. You're in journey. Yes.
There's
no such thing as bad mazel. 1,000%.
Wow. Okay, that's very powerful to hear. Is there some sort of identification in someone's chart if they're Jewish or not, or no?
No, not that I can.
Not that you know of.
No.
What's with the moon phases? I saw you did in Asano's chart. His moon now is in Aries or something. What's the significance of the moon phasing?
So there's a huge part of the system that I don't know why you would think by non-Jewish astrologers they would talk about it more, but I don't see it by them talking too much about it either. So we have this concept of Rosh Chodesh, right? So every month we have a new moon, the sun and moon meet. Then 7.5 days later, we have a first quarter moon. 7.5 days later, we have a full moon. 7.5 days later, we have a last quarter moon. And then we start the cycle of Rosh Chodesh again. In astrology, we also have this cycle of Rosh Chodesh, but instead of 30 days, it's 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So and you can see when you have a new moon, that's starting a whole new process in your life, a whole new thing.
So every 30 years?
Yeah, no. So it's independent. For every person's chart, there's a different timing of when it starts based on your birth chart. So it's not like everybody has the same 30 years. And then every 7.5 years, you go through a changing of the seasons of your life. And you'll see that some of the old things fall away and new things come into your life. So I'll give you an example. When I had this 30-year cycle, so 15 years ago, I had my first quarter moon. That's when I discovered astrology, right? That's when I had this encounter with astrology. I started reading books. 7.5 years later, I had an encounter with an artist. And I always thought of myself as somebody who's a philosopher, into psychology. That was my strength. And this artist told me that I also can be an artist.
Really?
And I never thought of myself as an artist. I'm like, well, I have my gifts, but that's not one of them. I try to paint. I don't have good hand-to-eye coordination. And they were saying, no, just be open to this concept. And I knew I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to bring out, but I didn't have the tools. And because I was open, Hashem introduced me at that time to Adobe Illustrator, an illustration program. And I started playing with it, and it really worked for me. And I was able to create illustrations. And in my book, I have 75 pages of illustrations that I learned at my full moon how to really do. And I love doing it. And I'm able to bring out concepts with illustrations. So at my first quarter moon, I learned about astrology. At my full moon, I learned about the illustrations. And at my last quarter moon is when my book came out. So You can see how this 15-year process, half of this 30-year cycle, was producing something. So everybody has this process, and you can see at each quarter all these big developments. And it's huge. You can see people tell me when I list their things, oh, this is when I got married, and this is when I started this, and this is when I changed careers. Or
yeah, Nathaniel said that he had something by his first, and he like really, you thought about it. He was like, wow, that was amazing.
Yes, you can really see. So to me, that's wild. It's also helps us understand where we are in the cycle, because it's like a beginning of a tree growing. So as you get to the last quarter, that's when your tree is producing fruits. That's when you're in the 3/4 of the cycle. That's like the peak of the cycle. And then you get ready to end that cycle and start a whole new cycle.
Wow.
So if I see somebody starting a new cycle, I get super excited. Why? Because sometimes they may have been stuck in their life and the things that they did. And I'm saying, hello, clean slate, the last 30 years, goodbye. Whatever held you back is no longer holding you back. You have now a whole new lease on life. And that to me is so powerful and empowering to understand this. And you can literally see your whole life play out like that. It's so powerful.
If someone wants to attract abundance, what planets should they focus on?
So I would say one of the big keys is a person's Venus. So Venus is about what you value in life, and ultimately it turns into your self-value. And I always say, every person has to be able to say, B'shvili nivra olam, that Hashem created the world for me. So too many times we have planets connected to Venus. Let's say if Saturn connects to Venus, then people feel like, in order to be valuable, I have to work hard. I have to be people-pleasing. I have to accomplish a lot of things. I have to, somebody was telling me that he finished Shas 7 times in order for him to feel valuable.
Oh, wow.
It's great to finish Shas. Don't get me wrong. Do it. But don't make that the barometer that's why you're valuable. You're valuable because you have a chaylik elokayim mal, that you have a godly essence, and that's who you are. Now go finish Shas. Now go do your thing. But really,
come with the right intention.
Yes. In order to fully do what you need to do, you have to first believe in yourself, that Hashem created you with a mission and a purpose. And it's such a powerful thing that you got to get rid of the voices in your head. You got to get rid of your parents, your whoever it is that's keeping you back and telling you, no, you need to do this. You need to make parnasa. No, do your gift and everything will flow. You want shefa, you want bracha, you have to do your gift. You have to release and let go of everything else and do it. So I would say Venus, start believing in yourself. That's number one.
When you're in your gift, when you're in your happiness, when you're in your flow, that's when you're open, and then things come back in.
Everything flows.
Yeah.
Everything flows.
I noticed that even when I started painting, I would want to sell the paintings, and they wouldn't sell. The second I would start the next painting and I would be in the painting flow, a painting would sell. Because I was just so in it. I was so happy. When you feel good,
absolutely.
It happens.
Absolutely. You're doing your gift, just let it flow. Let it flow. Move the ego side. It's not about you. I'm doing Hashem's gift. Just let it flow through you. And then there's like nothing stopping you.
I love that. What are your favorite planets? You said Neptune.
Neptune is just, Jupiter. Don't get me wrong. I love Jupiter too. Jupiter's enthusiasm, excitement, Jupiter and Neptune. But Neptune is something else.
Yeah. If you could give people a takeaway of one astrological tip about their life, what would it be?
So Uranus is such a big planet. It plays such a big role in people's lives. About being authentic, because that's another thing that keeps us stuck, because we're afraid of shidduchim, we're afraid of this. That means you're not going to be authentic. You're not going to be your true self. And it becomes another issue, between couples, because when there's a transit of Uranus, every 22 years, it's going to hit your sun or your moon. And at that time, it's really going to come out. You're not going to be able to keep your mouth closed. And that can cause so much shalom bias problems when people don't understand what's happening. If you've been restrained for so long, this is a time, if your spouse has awareness, to let your spouse know that they need to give you a lot more room to be true to yourself. Otherwise, there's going to be big clashes. I've done couples where it's been right after Uranus transit, and couples right before the Uranus transit. And it makes such a difference, the awareness of what's happening to you, what's going on with you. Because all of a sudden, your spouse is not going to be acting the way you're used to them acting. But it's here to help them grow. There's something restricted in them that needs more freedom. Now, it might be a little bit tougher on you during that time, but, I told Nassan a couple of years in 2028, he has it coming up, be conscious and aware. He's not going to be the Nassan that you're used to.
But I think in a way it's good. It forces you to, pick up the rocks that you were putting down for so long.
Yes.
So it's part of the growth.
Yeah, and you're helping him expand himself.
I'm excited.
Yes. but he's going to want to do race cars and you're going to be stuck with the kids. You have to be aware at that time.
Yeah, I'm not so excited.
You're right. He's going to need that a little bit more extra, that whatever agreements we have between husband and wife, right? I do this, you do this. During this time, you got to give them much more leeway. So yes, it's going to be tougher, but it's here to help them grow, and it's going to prevent any kind of issue. Because when you try to restrict them at that time, that's the worst possible thing you can do.
Wow.
They really need expansion. That's a time when Hashem designated for them to expand. Now, they need to be responsible too. It's not like they need to be responsible too, but they need more freedom and more allowance to really grow.
Amazing. Okay, this was great. This was excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
This was an amazing podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you loved this episode, please like it, comment, subscribe, follow us at Yaeli Vogel across Instagram and TikTok, and Yaeli Fine Art for just the art. And you can sign up for our emails. When you sign up, you get 20% off your first purchase. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Can't wait to produce more content for you.